Chapter 1. A Desperate Raid. The alarm blared, a discordant symphony of temporal distortion that echoed through the Guardians' headquarters. Site 102. Red lights pulsed, casting stark shadows on the faces of Chronos-Pirates, the Queen of Code, and the assembled Guardians. Site 105. Reaver activity is spiking across 17 timelines, Pirates announced, his voice sharp with urgency. Site 28. They're becoming bolder, more coordinated. We can't effectively respond to every incursion. Site. Chronos' masked visage remained impassive, but attention coiled in the air. Our mobility is compromised. We are too reliant on localized jumps. We need a vessel. Site 177. The Queen of Code stepped forward, her avatar shimmering with contained power. The Legion has hidden shipyards. Experimental craft. Fast, adaptable, but heavily defended. Site 7. A raid, then? Tempest's voice crackled with temporal energy. Direct and to the point. Site 5. Direct, but precise, Aevum countered, her form flickering slightly. We cannot afford unnecessary temporal ripples. Site. The decision was swift. A small strike team was assembled. Chronos for tactical oversight, Tempest and Aevum for raw power and precision, Kenji and Lyra for infiltration and navigation, and the Queen of Code to interface with the shipyard systems. Site 201. The raid began with a silent breach. Lyra, using her portal technology, created a series of rapid, disorienting entry points, bypassing the shipyard's outer defenses. Site 5. Kenji, his flow sense heightened, moved like a shadow, disabling security nodes before they could trigger alarms. Site. But the shipyard was a labyrinth of temporal traps. Corridors shifted, time loops sprang into existence, and automated turrets unleashed barrages of energy that aged the very air. Site 200. Tempest became the battering ram, her temporal storms shattering the traps and blasting through reinforced bulkheads. Site 22. Aevum moved with lethal grace, her temporal blades slicing through security drones and disrupting localized time fields. Site. Meanwhile, jacked into the shipyard's mainframe, her avatar a whirlwind of code and sonic energy. Site 83. She bypassed lockdown protocols, rerouted security systems, and searched for the optimal vessel. Site. The battle reached a crescendo in the central hangar. A sleek, formidable ship rested on a launch platform, its temporal drive humming with restrained power. But a contingent of Legion soldiers, clad in chronoton armor, stood guard. Site 107. Chronos, until now directing the operation, finally engaged. He manipulated the hangar's temporal flow, slowing the Legionnaires while accelerating the Guardians, turning the battle into a dance of skewed time. Site. Kenji, a whirlwind of steel and precision, cut through the enemy ranks. Lyra, with a rapid series of portals, redirected energy blasts and disoriented the soldiers. Site 49. Tempest unleashed a focused temporal storm, aging the Legionnaires' armor to brittle dust while leaving them unharmed. Aevum, phasing through their defenses, delivered precise strikes that disrupted their temporal stabilizers. Site. The Legionnaires fought fiercely, but the Guardians were relentless. Code, steel, portals, and manipulated time overwhelmed them. The Queen of Code, having wrestled control of the ship's systems, activated the launch sequence. The hangar doors opened, revealing the swirling chaos of the Tempest Schisma. Site. As the ship, designated the Chronos Cutter, soared into the temporal vortex, the Guardians knew their journey had just begun. Reclamation. Chapter 2. Echoes and Entropies. The Chronos Cutter shuddered as it pierced through a temporal storm, the Ronryu of the Tempest Schisma giving way to a relatively calmer stretch of fractured timelines. Inside the ship's command center, the holographic display flickered, showcasing the spreading chaos of the Time Reaver's incursions. Site. Their attacks are becoming bolder, Kairos observed, his voice sharp. Their temporal signatures are scattered, but there is a pattern to the chaos. They are targeting specific points in time. Site. 2012. Chronos' masked visage remained impassive. We cannot be everywhere at once. We will divide into strike teams. Site. Just then, Wildcard's image flickered onto the main screen. Don't forget about my teams, Chronos. We can handle some of this cleanup. Site. 2000. Acknowledged, operative wildcard, Chronos replied, his tone dry. Your unorthodox methods may prove useful in containing the Reaver's chaotic spread. Site. 2. The allied teams were organized. Team Temporal Strike, led by Aevum. This team comprised Tempest, Kenji, and Lyra. Their mission: hunt down the Chrono-Pirates, known for raiding historical timelines. Site. Aevum's precision and Kenji's skill would be essential in these close-quarters engagements. Team Reality Breach, led by the Queen of Code. This team consisted of Paradox Pixel, Origami Flow, and Rhea. Their objective: confront the Temporal Anarchists, who delighted in warping causality. Site. The Queen's mastery over the code flow and Origami Flow's spatial manipulation would be key in countering the Anarchists' reality-bending powers. Team Chronos, led by Chronos. This team included Kairos, Elias, and Jackson. Their role: investigate the Alternate Reality Cultists, who sought to replace the Prime Timeline. Site. Strategic mind and Kairos' predictive abilities were vital to unraveling the cultists' intricate schemes. Team Remix, led by Wildcard. This team was split into 2 squads. Remix Squad 1, Wildcard, Echo-Lite, and Aethelreda. Their mission: act as a rapid response unit, dealing with unpredictable temporal anomalies caused by the Reavers. Site. Wildcard's probability manipulation and Aethelreda's art flow would allow for creative solutions to chaotic situations. Remix Squad 2, Entropy's Canvas and Chrono-Shift. Their objective: support the other teams by disrupting Reaver technology and temporal defenses. Site. 2000. Entropy's Canvas's entropy and Chrono-Shift's temporal displacement would sow confusion and disorder among the Reaver forces. Lyricannon's involvement complicates matters, Chronos warned. Her control over the music flow could amplify the Reaver's efforts. Proceed with caution. Site. 1300. With the assignments made, the Chronos Cutter and Wildcard's ship, the Paradox, split ways, venturing into the time stream to confront the growing Reaver threat. Chapter 3. Echoes of the Past. The Paradox, Wildcard's ship, shuddered as it threaded its way through a particularly turbulent nexus of timelines. Inside, Wildcard reviewed the readings, a frown creasing her ever-shifting features. The Reavers are focusing their attacks on points where timelines intersect, she announced to her squad. Places where a change could have maximum ripple effects. Site. 12.5. Echo-Lite flickered, their voice tinged with temporal distortion. Paradoxical echoes, amplifying, destabilizing. Exactly, Wildcard confirmed. And I have a hunch they're not just after random changes. They're looking for something specific. Aethelreda, sketching rapidly, her lines shimmering with art flow, paused. And what would that be, darling? Some trinket from a forgotten dynasty? Wildcard grinned, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Something far more valuable. Someone. Meanwhile, aboard the Chronos Cutter, Aevum's team materialized in the heart of ancient Egypt. The air crackled with residual temporal energy, and the scent of sand and forgotten magic hung heavy. Chrono-Pirates, Aevum stated, her voice sharp. Their target, the Amulet of Akhenaten. An artifact rumored to hold the key to rewinding time. Site. 7. Kenji drew his katana, its blade gleaming. They will not acquire it. Tempest unleashed a wave of temporal energy, disrupting a group of pirates attempting to decipher hieroglyphs. Time to rewrite their history lesson. Lyra, already scouting ahead, opened a portal, her voice echoing from the other side. The amulet is in the Pharaoh's tomb. But the Anarchists are already inside. The situation escalated as another Reaver faction entered the fray. The Temporal Anarchists, clad in chaotic armor that seemed to shift and distort reality around them, were tearing through the tomb's defenses, their weapons unraveling the very fabric of time. The Anarchists seek to erase history itself, Kairos' voice echoed in Chronos' mind. Their actions could create a cascading temporal collapse. Site. 12. Chronos' masked visage remained impassive. Then we must ensure history remembers them as the defeated. As the Guardians clashed with the Reavers in the time-worn tomb, the battle for the amulet threatened to unravel the past, with potentially catastrophic consequences for the future. Wildcard and her team's investigation. Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 4. There's a message to the madness. The paradox danced through the time stream, Wildcard at the helm, her expression a mix of focus and barely contained excitement. "Okay, Team Remix," she announced, her voice echoing through the ship's comms. "Time to figure out what these Reaver wannabes are really after." Site 12. Echo-Lite flickered, their form unstable as they processed the chaotic temporal energies. Readings indicate Reaver activity clustered, not random. Site 1296. Aethelreda, sketching furiously on her pad, added, "And their targets aren't just any old timelines, darling. They're key nexus points, places where a little nudge could rewrite history." Site. Entropy's canvas rumbled, a low vibration that made the ship's consoles rust slightly. Not random, calculated, but for what? Chrono-Shift, appearing a moment too early near Wildcard's shoulder, their voice a blend of echoes, said, "The artifacts. It is always the artifacts." Wildcard snapped her fingers, grinning. "Bingo! But not just any artifacts. Ones with major temporal mojo. The kind that can rewrite reality, power up time machines, or maybe even summon someone." She brought up a holographic display, showcasing images of various powerful objects scattered across timelines. The Amulet of Akhenaten, the Chronos Key, the Loom of Fate. "The Reavers are collecting these like cosmic trading cards," Wildcard explained. "And that means our pal Lyricannon is involved." Aethelreda raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Cannon? In charge of a bunch of time-obsessed hooligans? That's a new look, even for her." Wildcard chuckled. "Oh, honey, you have no idea how many looks Cannon can pull off." The ship lurched as Chrono-Shift phased through a control panel, rerouting power. New target, high probability, Reaver activity. 1920s Shanghai. Shanghai, huh? Wildcard grinned. Flapper dresses and temporal anomalies? This is gonna be fun. As the paradox changed course, hurtling towards the roaring 20s, Wildcard addressed her team. "All right, Remix. Time to show these Reavers that messing with the timeline is our kind of party. And nobody crashes my party." Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 5. Shanghai Noon. The paradox materialized in the vibrant chaos of 1920s Shanghai. Jazz music spilled from smoky clubs, neon signs flickered, and the streets teemed with a mix of cultures and intrigue. "All right, darlings," Wildcard announced, her flapper dress shimmering with temporal energy. "Time to blend in and find that artifact before the Reavers do." Echo-Lite, sporting a surprisingly stylish fedora, shimmered beside her. Temporal readings, strongest, near the Bund. An old observatory. Aethelreda, sketching the bustling street scene, her lines infused with art flow, added, "And the rumors say it houses the celestial lens, capable of focusing temporal energy." Entropy's canvas, looking distinctly out of place in a trench coat, grumbled, "Great. More glowy things to attract Reaver weirdos." Chrono-Shift, somehow already inside a nearby speakeasy, their voice echoing from the past and future, chimed in, "The Reavers, negotiating." "Triad boss, for the lens. Negotiating?" Wildcard's eyes flashed. "We're crashing this party." The team moved through the city, a whirlwind of temporal abilities and carefully crafted disguises. Wildcard charmed her way into the speakeasy, her probability manipulation ensuring every dice roll and card game went her way. Echo-Lite phased through walls, gathering intel and disrupting Reaver communications. Aethelreda used her art flow to create illusions, misdirecting Reaver guards and creating escape routes. Entropy's canvas subtly decayed Reaver weapons and gadgets, causing malfunctions and chaos. Chrono-Shift, flitting through time, created distractions, appearing and disappearing to confuse their enemies. Inside the opulent back room of the speakeasy, they found the Reavers, led by a ruthless Chrono-Pirate captain, bargaining with a triad boss for the celestial lens. "The lens will be ours," the captain snarled, his voice laced with temporal distortion. "And with it, we shall rewrite time itself." Wildcard, bursting through the doors with a flourish, declared, "Sorry to interrupt your little history club, but this party's over." A chaotic battle erupted, a clash of Reaver technology, art flow illusions, and Wildcard's unpredictable powers. But amidst the chaos, the true nature of the Reaver's plan became clear. They weren't just after the lens, they were after something far more dangerous. Okay, here's Chapter 6, delivering the sassy action comedy you requested. Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 6, Shanghai Noon Sense. The fight in the Shanghai Speakeasy was a glorious mess. Wildcard, a blur of motion, phased through Reaver attacks and delivered perfectly timed probability punches that sent pirates flying into tables laden with surprisingly resilient dumplings. Seriously? These things are tougher than temporal steel, she exclaimed, dodging a blast of energy. Echo-Lite flickered, creating small paradoxes that made the Reavers question their own existence, and which direction was up. If time is a river, and we are boats, are we also the oars? They mused, leaving a pirate utterly bewildered. Aethelreda, with a dramatic flourish, painted illusions of dragons and phantom gangsters, creating diversions and escape routes. Art is the ultimate weapon, darling, she declared, sketching a portal that opened into a conveniently placed laundry chute. Entropy's canvas, meanwhile, was having a field day making Reaver tech malfunction. Their temporal dampeners rusted, their energy weapons sputtered, and one unfortunate pirate found his boots spontaneously decaying. Fashion faux pas and temporal sabotage, Entropy's canvas rumbled with satisfaction. Chrono-Shift, true to form, was everywhere and nowhere at once, delivering surprise attacks and snatching the celestial lens from under the Reavers' noses. You were going to do what with this? They echoed, appearing behind the pirate captain and then vanishing before the captain could react. But as the dust settled, Wildcard realized the Reavers weren't just after the lens. They were after the energy it was focusing. Energy that was drawing something else. Someone else. A figure shimmered into existence, stepping out of a temporal rift. It was Lyricannon, but not the Queen of Code. This was a younger, rawer version, crackling with untamed music flow. Well, Lyricannon drawled, her voice a sonic weapon. Looks like I found my ride. Mommy dearest, Wildcard quipped, always fashionably late to her own apocalypse. The Reavers, it turned out, were a distraction. Lyricannon had used them to gather the artifacts, to create a temporal key that would allow her to, well, that part was still a bit fuzzy. But it definitely involved a lot of power and probably some very loud music. What followed? Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 6, Shanghai Rhyme and Reason. The brawl in the Shanghai Speakeasy was a glorious, chaotic ballet of temporal powers and jazz-age mayhem. Wildcard, a dazzling flapper one moment and a phasing phantom the next, manipulated probability to send Reavers tumbling into stacks of bootleg hooch. Anyone order a temporal twist with their whiskey sour? She quipped, teleporting behind a pirate. Echo-Lite, their form flickering with increasing intensity, created localized paradoxes that turned the fight into a Dadaist performance art piece. Is the gun firing me, or am I firing the gun? They pondered, leaving Reavers frozen in existential confusion. Aethelreda, with dramatic flair, conjured illusions of mythical beasts and vengeful spirits, adding a touch of the surreal to the fisticuffs. Darling, reality is so dreadfully boring, she purred, sketching a flock of illusory phoenixes. Entropy's canvas, meanwhile, expressed their artistic side through creative decay, turning Reaver weaponry into rusty scrap and causing the floor beneath their enemies to crumble. Entropy is the ultimate critic, they rumbled, leaving a trail of artistic rust. Chrono-Shift, a temporal ninja, blurred through the scene, snatching the celestial lens and delivering perfectly timed, or perfectly out of time, blows. Surprise, they echoed, appearing a split second before a Reaver could pull the trigger. But amidst the chaos, the true danger revealed itself. A figure stepped out of a newly formed temporal rift, Lyricannon. Not the Queen of Code, but a younger, more volatile version, her eyes blazing with raw sonic power. Well, she purred, her voice a weaponized melody. Looks like you found my band. Lyricannon, Wildcard said, a wary edge to her voice. Should have known you'd be behind this temporal karaoke. It turned out the Reavers were a distraction, a chaotic symphony designed to mask Lyricannon's true goal, to gather artifacts and amplify her music flow to do something big. Something involving rewriting the multiverse's greatest hits, and probably a lot of property damage. What followed was a high-octane battle through the streets of 1920s Shanghai. There was a sonic duel in a jazz club, where Lyricannon's voice shattered glass and warped reality while Synthwave tried to counter with a jazzy reality-bending melody. A gravity-defying fight on the rooftops, where Wildcard's probability manipulation met Lyricannon's sonic blasts. And a desperate chase through the crowded streets, with Echo-Lite creating temporal glitches to slow down the Reavers. In the end, it came down to Wildcard and Lyricannon facing off at the docks, the celestial lens pulsing between them. "So, what's the grand finale, Lyricannon?" Wildcard asked, her voice laced with a nervous energy. "Rewrite the past into your personal mixtape?" Lyricannon grinned, a dangerous glint in her eyes. "Let's just say the multiverse needs a new sound. And I'm the only DJ qualified to drop the beat." But before Lyricannon could unleash her plan, Wildcard did what she did best, the unpredictable. She used her probability powers to create a localized temporal hiccup, disrupting Lyricannon's control and sending the Reavers reeling. Then, with a well-timed portal created by Aethelreda, they contained Lyricannon and the lens in a carefully crafted temporal prison. And that, Wildcard declared, adjusting her slightly askew fedora, is how you stop time-traveling music pirates from ruining the timeline's vibe. Now, anyone up for some real noodles? And so, the remix team, with their unique blend of chaos and creativity, saved the day, proving that even the most delicate temporal situations can be handled with a bit of style and a whole lot of attitude. Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 7. The Silence of the Ticks. The Guardians and Wildcard's teams gathered in the Chronos Cutter's main briefing room, the holographic displays flickering with images of fractured timelines and captured Reaver vessels. Chronos, his masked visage as inscrutable as ever, initiated the debrief. "All teams, report. Assessment of Reaver activity and artifact retrieval status." Aevum, her form shimmering slightly, spoke first. "Chrono-Pirate activity contained. The amulet of Akhenaten is secured. However, their temporal tactics were primitive. Uncharacteristically so. Sight. Third. The Queen of Code's avatar manifested, a hint of digital static around her edges. Temporal Anarchist operations disrupted. Their reality warping attempts were clumsy. Almost as if they were buying time. Sight. Kenji, his hand resting on his katana, added, Alternate Reality Cultist infiltration prevented. But their focus was misdirected. They seemed more interested in creating diversions than securing their objective. Sight. Wildcard leaned back, her appearance shifting through a series of increasingly improbable hairstyles. "And my crew's Shanghai adventure? Too easy. Lyricannon practically handed us the lens and then poofed." Even Kairos, the master of probability, seemed unsettled. "The numbers, they do not align. The Reaver's actions lack their usual desperation. Their calculated chaos." Sight. 2000. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the ship's temporal drive. But it wasn't the ship. It was Chronos, a faint, almost inaudible ticking emanating from him. "Chronos?" Tempest's voice held a hint of unease. "Are you all right?" "You're ticking." Chronos's masked face remained impassive. A minor temporal feedback. Insignificant, but the others weren't so sure. There was an unsettling feeling in the air, a sense that the Reaver's defeat was a carefully orchestrated illusion, and that the true danger was yet to be revealed. Saga, the Time Reaver's Reclamation. Chapter 8. Into the Shadow Weave. The ticking grew louder, a counterpoint to the hum of the Chronos Cutter. All eyes were on Chronos, an unspoken dread filling the room. "Chronos," Kairos said, his voice strained. "That sound, it's not temporal feedback." Before anyone could react, Chronos's form flickered. The familiar mask dissolved, revealing not the stoic face they knew, but a shifting vortex of shadows. "Foolish Guardians," the voice that emerged was a chilling whisper, layered with echoes. "You thought it was too easy? You played right into our hands." The illusion of Lyricannon shattered, revealing Wraith, the master of shadows, his form coalescing from the darkness within the captive. His shadow faction materialized around him: Silas, Cypher, Spectre, their presence a chilling wave of absence energy. The Reavers were a distraction, Wraith hissed, his gaze sweeping over the stunned Guardians. My syndicate was the true prize. The room plunged into darkness, the ship's lights extinguished by Wraith's power. Panic flared as the Guardians found themselves engulfed in an oppressive void, their senses failing them. Aevum, her temporal senses heightened, moved with desperate speed, her temporal blades slicing through the darkness, seeking a target. But the shadows seemed to anticipate her, shifting and evading her strikes. Tempest unleashed a blast of raw temporal energy, hoping to dispel the darkness. But the energy was absorbed, feeding Wraith's power. Kenji, his flow sense screaming a warning, tried to protect his allies, but the shadows infiltrated their minds, whispering doubts and fears. The Queen of Code, her digital form flickering, attempted to access the ship's systems to restore the light. But Cypher, a master of infiltration, had already corrupted the code, twisting it into a weapon against her. Wildcard, her probability manipulation useless against the unpredictable nature of the shadows, found herself trapped in a vortex of her own worst memories, reliving moments of loss and isolation. The capture of the real Queen of Code was swift and brutal. Silas, the master of illusion, created a perfect duplicate, fooling the Guardians while Wraith and Spectre, the shadow assassins, moved in. Their movements were unseen, unheard, their presence erased from the timeline until the very moment of their strike. They moved through the ship as if they were a part of it. They found the Queen of Code in her digital sanctum, her avatar a swirling vortex of code. She never saw them coming. One moment she was rewriting the ship's firewalls, the next, Spectre was upon her, his touch draining her energy, his presence a chilling void. Wraith, his voice a whisper in her digital ear, offered a chilling bargain. Join us, Queen. Your code flow. It is the key to unlocking the true potential of the timeline. Her refusal was met with a surge of absence energy. Her avatar flickered, weakened. They had her. As the Guardians fought blindly in the darkness, their powers failing them, Wraith and his syndicate slipped away, taking their prize. The real Queen of Code was gone. The Chronos Cutter, once a vessel of hope, became a tomb of despair, adrift in the time stream, its crew lost in the suffocating embrace of the Shadow Weave. The Reaver's plan was finally revealed. It wasn't about artifacts. It was about acquiring the power to control the code flow, and Wraith was the perfect weapon. The chapter ends with a chilling revelation, a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, observing the unfolding events from a hidden vantage point in the Tempest Schisma. A figure who had hired Wraith to capture the Queen of Code, their motives shrouded in mystery, their presence a promise of even greater darkness to come.